Hey you, welcome back to the Nerd Hangout. In this episode, we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Guys, welcome back to the Nerd Hangout. In this episode, we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Specifically, what is better? Homebrew content, bot modules, pros, cons. Let's go talk about it, guys. And I'm going to invite my brother to join me. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back, Chashan.
Thank you.
Damn. Now, playing Dungeons and Dragons, guys, means that you have a lot of reading to do. Well, basically, you just need a player handbook. And Monster Manual is always very nice.
Yeah.
If you are a Dungeon Master. And of course, the Dungeon Master Guide. Now, as you can see, I've made a lot of notes in my researching as a Dungeon Master. But I still feel I fall short. There's so much information.
Yeah, there's too much to read. I mean, essentially, if you have the player handbook,
that's all you need.
Yeah, you have like all you need.
Yeah.
The Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual are just extra layers on that experience you can give the players.
Exactly.
You have the basic rules online. They give you vast information about how to start the game, how to run the game. Or no, maybe not how to run the game, but how the rules are set up.
Yeah.
Like with adding your proficiency modifiers, with some of the monsters, some of the class abilities, racial guides, some very basic information about the world of D&D.
We started actually playing without any of the books. I think only Martin Rajan, who plays with us in the in the podcast, had one player handbook.
No.
He didn't even?
No.
No. Okay, we had no book.
We had nothing.
No. So we actually just looked online for the basic rule set, and we also listened to podcasts also, actually.
Podcasts help a lot.
The Adventure Zone gave a lot of introduction to the rules, how they played and stuff like that. Of course, you can say that maybe the way we played it in the beginning was our own version, kinda-ish, because we didn't know the rules.
Yeah, you just, you make some rules up as you go, and... Some of the times you have to do some research. A quick Google can help you a lot.
Yeah, exactly. What do we do in this situation, in that situation, exactly.
So it was kind of a slow beginning, but as soon as you start picking up some of the rules, I mean, a lot of the rules come more frequently than others.
This was also before D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
So we had another app called Character Sheet or something like that, 5e.
Yeah, Character Sheet.
And that helped also a lot, because it really helped making a character. You got all the information there. And of course, our stats didn't match up at all.
No.
It didn't make any sense. It's not like the quick build recommendations of the player handbook. Nothing. So we say, okay, I want one to be intelligent, I want him to be wise, I want him to be strong, I want him to be charismatic, so you just put everything up, but you can't do that.
I remember I made a rogue, and... As I was laying down the stats, I was like, okay, strength. Well, I don't want him to be weak, so 14. Dexterity, okay, I'll max that out, 15. Intelligence, well, he's not dumb, so 12. Charisma, he is really good at talking to people, 14. Wisdom, he is street smart, so maybe 14 also. That leaves me with 8 Constitution.
What is Constitution? Just down that down. Well, basically, that is what you want to do. As you make a character the way you want to make him, basically. But also, you want to make him the most efficient as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is the concept of min-maxing, where you just dump everything that, like intelligence, charisma, wisdom, and strength, are the most frequent dump stats. Yeah. Preferably charisma, strength, or intelligence. Because if you are not a character that is based off some of those attributes, if you dump them, you're not at all at a disadvantage.
No, exactly. But there's a lot of ways to do this. and many of the players actually Google how to make the most efficient killing machine, and make stats out of that, instead of just how do I want him to be? How do I want this character? Is he charismatic? Is he strong? Is he weak?
Yeah.
And that also goes for the flaws.
Definitely.
Both me and Charles and I really agree on the flaws really make the character.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it makes it so much more fun to actually roleplay.
Yeah, the flaws really make the character, as you said. The role-playing opportunities it gives you they are fun, they can be devastating, they can be defining. Very defining. Of your character. Yeah. Of your party.
Especially if you really like to roleplay, then the flaws really help you. How you roleplay, how you're the situation is gonna roll out compared to your flaw. Especially, I had this idea for a dwarf who was terrified of horses because he was mowed down by horses as a young dwarf.
Yeah, like some PTSD.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he couldn't ride horses at all. But we never played him. No, he was just an idea for one of your.
Yeah, it was actually for my Curse of Strat game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we went so long before we even got to begin the adventure that you had already come up with a new character idea.
I changed it to another one, exactly. But the idea was fun.
Yeah.
The character I ended up playing with Curse of Strat had a drinking problem.
Yeah.
He was an alcoholic, which was kind of fun roleplay because he was a paladin, and he was very high honored and lawful, but had a history of not being that.
Yeah.
He was ashamed to his father because he liked loose living and drinking and stuff like this, and developed a problem. But eventually he came out of that problem. Yeah, his father passed, he died, and nobody knew what happened.
No.
And he had a sense of, was he involved?
Yeah.
He felt he was involved in that way, that he was drunk that night and he wasn't present, so he couldn't defend his father. Yeah. So he determined on that day to never touch alcohol again. But in game, it kind of kept spooking up on him.
I was presenting some scenarios for Tiberius,
exactly,
which was his name.
Yeah, Tiberius arc.
What he would choose in the different scenarios. And I mean, considering his past, he really overcame that part of himself.
He did.
He was a well-respected member of the group and a natural leader.
Yeah.
And some of the other characters looked up to him.
They actually did, yeah. They role played that aspect really good, actually.
Mm.
And of course, if you know anything about Curse of Strahd, it is a dark world, a lot of darkness in it, and that made him consider the flask again, because things became just too violent and too.
Yeah, he saw compatriots die.
Yeah.
He had some traumatic experiences. They were captured and tortured.
Yeah, exactly.
By the worst means possible, a mental torture.
Yeah, mental torture, and that really actually messed him up.
Yeah, that almost broke him.
Yeah. Of course, if you make a flaw like that, you can choose not to use it and play with it. Most people, when they make a character and they don't have any flaws, and others just make one and then forget all about it. But I wouldn't have this cool story with Tiberius Arc if I didn't use it.
Not at all.
In the game.
Yeah.
And it also made curiosity for the other players. Because in the beginning he was, he's a paladin, he doesn't want to drink with us. They didn't know I had a drinking problem.
No, it isn't all rosy, as it seems.
Exactly. So that was actually very fun.
And some of them also had fun, like, challenging him. Like, testing out his boundaries.
Yeah, they mocked him a little bit for it, yeah. Yeah, we talked about Curse of Strahd, which makes me think about, like I talked about in the beginning, the difference between bot modules and homebrewing world, because in my podcast, the Ariana Saga, it's all homebrew, I made it all myself. And Curse of Strahd is actually our first bot module played. Yeah. So I think we want to talk a little bit about it without spoiling anything. Maybe we can go in another episode in depth about Curse of Strahd specifically. Yeah. The details. These are all just player guides. I have the player handbook, the monster manual, dungeon master guide, Xandar's guide to everything, and Volvo's guide to monsters. These are very good source materials for rules, for subclasses and stuff like that. And magic items and stuff like this. Of course, you can get all of these on D&D Beyond on digital, which we also have.
Yeah.
Plus some extras actually. So
these barely scratch the surface of all the materials Wizards of the Coast have laid out there.
And also for many of us who play Dungeons and Dragons, this just becomes a collectible kind of thing. It's
definitely
it's something else having it in your hand.
Yeah.
Digital is fine. It really helpful if you use D&D Beyond for your character sheets, which make everything so easy. But it has its charms if you have it in your hands.
They look nice on your shelf.
Exactly. You also have a game, a homebrew version game.
I don't have a game currently, but I have...
Well, you have a world.
I have a world. Yeah. Fairly established. I have fleshed some of the places out, some not.
But you have only introduced one player into that world. And that's me, right?
That's
you haven't played with any groups?
Nope. No, we chose to play Curse of Strat instead of a homebrew game.
And we do that on Roll20. You can play online games on Roll20 on Fantasy Grounds and stuff like that, which is very fun, and you can do that abroad.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in the same city.
And when you play the bot modules like Curse of Strat on Roll20, everything, the maps, the tokens, the places, everything is laid out before you.
That is true.
And all the dynamic lightings, if you have Roll20, the bot version, the subscription on Roll20. The dynamic lighting, everything is set up. You don't have to do a thing. You only have to read up on what you have to do.
Yeah.
And of course you have your characters. You have to make their tokens and stuff. But it's very minimal to what you have to prepare.
Yeah. I tried also playing Dragon of Icespire Peak, which I bought the IDM for Chashdan. It's set up that way that you can play one-on-one. And I saw that instantly also, how much easier it is that everything is, all your material is there, compared to when you make your homebrew world, where you have to create everything from scratch. But one thing I also noticed, which gave me a lot of experience or good tips on my homebrew world, is how the way they set things up.
Yeah.
On the way they write their side notes to every city to describe the scenarios and stuff like that. And that was actually very learned. Yeah,
it's a very good learning experience to DM a bot module.
Yeah.
So some of the adventures I have heard are not that well set up. I mean, Curse of Strat, for example, it is a sandbox. And you have all these different chapters. It's not a linear book, because you have no idea what your players will do.
Oh, that's
but if you have prepared these different sections of the book, you are ready for whatever your players are going to do.
Yeah.
And the number one rule, I think, when playing a bot module, is that don't be afraid to make it into something of your own, to improvise on some of the aspects of the game that maybe you don't, maybe it doesn't fit with the characters, maybe it doesn't fit with your style of DMing. So do not be afraid to
make it your
mold it a little bit to your own style.
Yeah, exactly. And that also, I think, will maybe make it more your own compared to if you play it with someone else.
Yeah.
First, you yourself have been in the game, and then you DM it for another group later as well.
Yeah, you can have a completely different experience based on what the DM chooses to emphasize on.
Yeah, also what the players choose to do.
Yeah.
Or where they choose to go.
Definitely.
What decisions they make.
Definitely. Yeah, so in that way, I would say Curse of Strahd is a very educational kind of game.
Yeah.
It really, like you said, it really helps you set up your personal game for a homebrew. Like what's important? What kind of locations do you write that maybe it doesn't matter? How much do you flesh out your NPCs? Do you write a whole page, 2 pages of NPC backstory and all that? No, it's really not necessary.
No, I've heard a lot of people who do that, and then the players just pass the NPC, and they never do anything about him, and he just written 2 pages of backstory and descriptions of this NPC, and they just said hello, bye. Which is sad.
I mean, most of the NPCs in a game, you have like a 1-minute conversation with them, and then you move on to the next one.
Exactly.
I mean, of course, there are some reoccurring NPCs that have a massive impact on the game, and I also like to maybe not have too much prepared of them, because I like to have some freedom on how they react to certain kinds of situations that also define them as characters.
Yeah.
Like what would they do in this kind of scenario? So you define the NPC as you play.
You have your basic idea what kind of type this guy is.
Yeah.
You don't have to write exactly the dialogues.
No.
Maybe only if there's the information that he has.
Yeah.
But you have an idea who this guy is and what kind of decisions he will make if they ask him anything and stuff like that. That's fine.
Definitely.
That's fine, because you don't know what they're going to ask.
No.
And most of the time, they're not going to ask what you want them to ask.
No.
They're not going to do what you want them to do.
Nope.
They're going to do something else.
Yep.
And always be prepared for that.
Always.
Yeah. But yeah, I would also recommend, if you want to DM, try a bot module first.
Yeah.
It will be a lot easier for you when you start a DM. Both of us actually tried DM before trying a module. And for me, it turned out to be a podcast. The first game that I ever DM'd, which is fine, but there was a lot of work in it. There's still a lot of work in it.
Yeah, I mean, my first DMing experience was a total mess.
Yeah, of course, mine as well.
I mean, thinking back, I looked at a one-shot online, and I kind of prepared for some things. There's such a thing as over-preparing.
Yeah.
Because when my character, or the PCs, didn't do what I anticipated, I froze.
Yeah.
Because I had this whole section written down on what was going to happen when they went to the right.
Yeah.
But they went to the left.
Yeah. And then I can't not mention one of our famous encounters in that aspect, playing with Martin in his world.
Yeah.
He did this on a homebrew world on Roll20. That means he has to make the entire maps himself from scratch, not something bought like a bot module. And he made a full encounter in an Arcanian tower.
Yeah, a wizard's tower. He had mapped out all the floors.
Yeah, all the chambers.
Yeah,
all the plans he had inside, the encounters, the traps, whatever. And we just passed it.
Yeah.
We didn't even go inside.
We tried to go inside.
Yeah, but it just
we felt
so impossible. We were only 2 players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We felt there wasn't it was too guarded.
It was too guarded, yeah.
But he, of course, had some idea of how we could do it.
Yeah.
We just didn't think of it.
No.
And then, well, do we really need this?
That is also when if you narrate the possibilities too much down, like there's only one way in, and you have that in your head, and make it almost impossible for the players. So yeah, he was actually kind of pissed about that.
I understand. Yeah. I would be pissed too.
So much work in it. So, but be prepared for that, guys. That can always happen.
That can happen.
So yeah, but actually, Dragon of Icespire Peak and Curse of Strahd are only the only 2 modules we have played, bought. So we have a lot of materials that we can try different. But I really like Homebrew game myself.
Yeah, me too.
That is because as a DM, I control everything, the entire scenario. I'm not bound by anything. And that makes it easier for me to have an open world scenario also, which I have also in my game, the Ariana Saga, where I laid it up for the guys like this, that there's different things going on in the world, and if you don't choose to do something about that situation, well, the world's still going to turn. You go, and that situation is going to continue.
Yeah, it continues like in real time.
Like in real time, and that is going to affect what is going on in the world. And if you follow the podcast, you will notice this, especially when you come to the full podcast season 1, which is going to be released now next year in January, and you can listen to the entire thing. You will get that feeling. Yeah. Because the way I set it up, I will mention this in more depth in another episode, is that you as the listeners will know more what's going on in my world than the players. You're going to hear the backstories from episode 0. You're going to hear the planning of different enemies and stuff like that, which the players know nothing about. So the fun thing about this podcast, to maybe try to make it a little bit different than the other podcast, is you know what the enemy wants to do in some aspect, not in full picture, because there's always a little bit room for mystery. So what do the players do? Will they do anything about the situation? What will happen if they don't, and stuff like that, which I think will make it very interesting for the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back, I know Sorvan has had some decisions to make, and some decisions that were made he didn't agree upon.
Yeah.
And he knew for a fact that it would have some kind of consequence.
Yeah.
And it did, without spoiling anything.
Yeah, exactly. But also sometimes you just can't. The task set in front of you was too hard.
Yeah.
And you just, in this case, you just roll too bad.
Yeah.
And you just fail. That happens. And
sometimes you maybe have to trust that there is another party of adventurers somewhere who will maybe take care of this thing.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that's very interesting in that way, compared to a bot module where there is a overall plan. Of course, you can put your own signature in it, like you said before, and put your own. You can actually put your own mission inside.
Yeah,
side quests
definitely.
Inside your own encounters.
Yeah, I put
plans.
many of my own side quests.
And then you intertwine it with the main storyline as you go.
Yeah, that especially comes to fruition when you make some character arcs for your PCs.
Yeah, exactly.
How you move their backstories into the world of. In this instance, it's Barovia, where it is a demi-plane. It's not on the material plane.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to find elements of a PC's backstory because their past is in the material plane. So you have to create something for the characters. For example, I had a tiefling character who had amnesia as a child and didn't know where he came from. I made it so that he was from Barovia and had escaped somehow.
Oh yeah.
And later found out that her brother was a Barovian citizen.
Yeah, exactly.
And they came together that way. And so her experience in Barovia became something else because she had actually found her way home.
That's cool.
So yeah, that is some that's a way you can do it.
But basically, for me, that is a lot of the things that I've created in my homebrew world is out of the backstories of the players, because they want something, and I want to intertwine that in the story, and that actually moves the story along with all of the characters. So I want their dreams fulfilled in some aspect, and for example, I want them to try it out, and then that is also something that you will find out when you listen to the podcast. You know them from the get-go. You know them from session 0. And it's interesting to follow them. Will they reach that goal that I wanted? And stuff like that. Yeah. And there's one player in my world. There's a slave issue. Halflings are slaves. And I was just interested in, compared to your players, where they're from, their characters, their race. I mean, what are their thoughts on slavery? And most of them were actually against it, because maybe that pictures of real life, because everybody's against slavery. And that also comes down to how good a role player you are. And some of the players who actually was part of the human society and lived in Angel's Bliss, where slavery was normal, played that really good, that he didn't care about it. It was just normal. And then one of the players who actually was against it. And that started the entire line of a rebellion about getting them freed and trying to get them freed and stuff like that. So backstories are very important, I think, especially in the homebrew world. I
mean, myself particularly, when I listen to a podcast, the favorite episodes or parts of the podcast are the ones that focus on the characters, backstories, and their evolvement.
Exactly.
Like, for example, in Critical Role, when
thinking about the same.
When we follow Ford and his quest, or not, or Yasha. I mean, my favorite episodes are when we find something out about the characters,
like some intimate details about the characters.
Definitely. Or when they have these intimate conversations between one another, where they leak some of their secrets, where some things come out that you didn't know. I mean, those are my absolute favorite moments.
Also, that's almost every time a wow factor in the game. When something comes into light about your players.
Where you go like,
exactly. Exactly. Where did you come from? What did you do? What happened to you? And stuff like that. More than than an NPC or a guy you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Of course, you can build that up, and that becomes also
it's nothing. I mean, most of the times, just the DMs are great storytellers and set up the scenarios really well. And I don't want to take anything away from them by saying that I love the characters' backstories or their conversations.
Oh no.
But I just it connects us more with the characters, which is what D&D is about.
Yeah, I think also it's the DM is involved in that because he takes that backstory.
Yeah, of course.
And intertwines it into his story and makes it out of something great.
Yeah.
It makes it exciting.
Yeah.
So, but if I ask you this question, what do you prefer, homebrew or a bot module?
I think I would prefer a well-established homebrew world.
Yeah.
I think so.
For me, being a DM, I like homebrew world. Like I said before, I have total control. I don't, especially if the players know about the bot module, I don't have to live up to anything except my own world.
Yeah, I mean the homebrew worlds leave a lot to be desired.
Exactly.
Like if you play, I mean I keep coming back to Curse of Strat because that's the only DM I have module. But if you play Curse of Strat, the players know a bit of, they know what to expect. You come into this ominous horror setting, and you have to defeat the big bad evil guy.
Yeah. And you want to do him justice.
Yeah. That's about it. If you really cram it up.
Yeah.
In a homebrew setting, you have no idea what you're getting into.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And
especially as a player.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's going on.
And the DM many a times has a way to keep the players on their toes. And also you have a bit more of an emphasis on character development in a homebrew setting. Because in a bot module you have to move the story forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And in the homebrew world, I feel that you generally take a bit more time to explore the characters.
Yeah, because you don't know how long this will take, so you take your time.
Yeah.
It's all up to DM and it can be a game that's going to last for years.
Definitely.
And in a bot module, there is a end coming.
There is an end.
Yeah, exactly. And you maybe feel like we're getting close to that end. If you say a pro and a con with a bot module, of course the cons you just told us about. What are the pros?
I would say the pros of a bot module is that you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
As much as the bot modules can be a bit predictable, you also know as a player what you're getting into. You know almost for a fact that you are going to have fun with this module.
And cons with a homebrew world?
The cons with a homebrew world is, I would say, as a DM, there's a lot of preparing to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to do before the actual game. You have to establish, if not a world, a city.
Yeah.
Or a place, a region.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work. And as a player, if you come to a table where the DM is not prepared, you feel it instantly.
Yeah. Especially if it's not very good at
improvising.
Improvising, yeah. In creating a homebrew world, it's also a very good tip to start at one city, one place, and work your way out. Yeah, we've heard a lot of different channels talking about guys making a world and never getting to play it because they just don't feel it's perfect enough.
No.
They make their gods, they make the religions, they make the cities, the races. It just becomes so overwhelming that they never feel they're ready.
No.
Instead of like we did, I had a town called Ronin and Hollow Stitch, and that's what I had.
Yeah.
And a name for the world was Ariana, and an idea of the gods also.
Yeah.
And basically out of that it just
evolved. It's enough to get you started.
Exactly.
I mean, if you have a few NPCs, you have a quest, you have an established town.
Yeah.
I mean, that could get you through a lot of sessions.
Yeah. So yeah, there are a lot of bot modules, as you can say. There's a lot of materials out there. Also, if you are a part of the Dungeon Master Guild, are you a part of that?
Yep.
They have a lot of DMs who make homebrew material and they load it up there. on PDFs, and you can download them for inspiration or just for single encounters. There's a lot of material on there that you can use. Some of them are for free, some of them accept donations for their material, and some of them you can buy.
Yeah, they have like pay what you want.
Pay what you want kind of thing, yeah. I've bought from them both for free and for $1 or something like that. Just when we had a one shot, sometimes when we're in the Faroe Islands and we just want to do something really quick, and I've bought something from there. That's a good source if you don't know about it. So yeah, please write down in the comments, what do you think, what do you prefer, Homebrew, bot modules? You can also maybe mention which is the best bot module. I know Curse's Rod is one of the most famous one. Yeah,
I think most people would rank it as number 1 in 5th edition.
Yeah. Tell us if you disagree. And yeah, I think that's it for this episode.
Yeah.
First recommendation, if you want a DM, try a bot module first. It will really help you to know how to set things up as a DM to make it easier for you. Anyway, guys, this was this episode of Nerd Hangout. See you next time, nerds.
See you next time.
Bye. Okay, cool. Damn! Critical miss. This is all we have for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. See you next time, guys. Bye, nerds.